A woman who spends time alone is the most dangerous force in the room. Why? Because she has mastered what most people run from: solitude. While the world scrambles for attention, she sharpens her mind like a weapon. She doesn't need a crowd to tell her she's enough. She doesn't wait for approval. She is the approval. This is the woman who walks into a room and without saying a word demands attention. Not because she seeks it, but because she is so in tune with herself that others can't ignore her presence. Others can't ignore her presence. She's not distracted by gossip, fleeting trends, or the empty noise of weak minds. No, she's focused, precise, and determined. She has built a world where she relies on no one, which means no one can shake her. While others waste time searching for someone to complete them, she's building herself. She doesn't need validation because she knows her worth. She doesn't waste energy proving herself because she is the proof. When adversity strikes, she doesn't break down. She strategizes. She doesn't beg for opportunities. She creates them. And let me tell you something, this kind of woman is feared, not because she's aggressive, but because she's unpredictable. No one knows what she'll do next because she doesn't move based on emotions or external influence. She moves with calculated precision. She is 10 steps ahead while the rest are still figuring out step 1. The world tries to tell her she should be afraid of being alone. They say she should settle, conform, and shrink to fit in. But she knows the truth. Solitude is where the greatest warriors are forged. It's where legends are built. The weak fear being alone because they don't trust their own thoughts. The strong embrace it because they own their destiny. So here's the bottom line. If you are a woman who spends time alone, understand this. You are powerful. You are a weapon. You are an empire in the making. Never let the world tell you otherwise. Because when you master yourself, you control everything. Self-reliance is power. A woman who spends time alone is dangerous because she is self-reliant. And self-reliance is the ultimate power. It separates the weak from the strong, the dependent from the independent, the ordinary from the extraordinary. In a world where people are constantly looking for someone to hold their hand, she stands alone. Not because she has to, but because she chooses to. She is not waiting for someone to save her because she knows she is her own savior. Most people live their lives attached to others like lifelines, fearing that if they are left alone, they will collapse. They look to friends, family, relationships, and society to give them direction. They lean on others to validate their worth. But a woman who spends time alone, she has broken free from that illusion. She has discovered the hard truth that most never will. Nobody is coming to save you, and you don't need them to. This woman does not wait clarity and focus the unstoppable edge. A woman who spends time alone is a woman with clarity. And clarity is a lethal advantage in a world full of distractions. The average person is lost, caught up in gossip, mindless scrolling, and chasing validation from others. They are pulled in 1,000 directions, never truly knowing what they want, where they are going, or who they are. But the woman who embraces solitude, she sees through the noise. She operates with laser focus. She is dangerous because she moves with purpose while others drift aimlessly. Think about it. How many people actually take the time to sit in silence and confront their own thoughts? Almost none. That's why most of the world is weak, confused, and easily manipulated. But a woman who spends time alone has trained herself to think independently. She doesn't need a group of people to tell her what's right. What's emotional mastery, the ultimate weapon? A woman who spends time alone is dangerous because she has mastered her emotions. In a world where most people are controlled by their feelings, she controls herself. Where others react impulsively, she remains composed. Where others let emotions cloud their judgment, she sees things clearly. This ability makes her unstoppable. Most people are slaves to their emotions. They get angry and say things they regret. They feel sad and let their energy drain away. They become jealous, anxious, insecure, and let those emotions dictate their actions. And because of this, they are easily manipulated. But a woman who embraces solitude has learned to sit with her emotions, analyze them, and master them. She doesn't run from discomfort. She faces it. She doesn't let fear dictate her decisions. She moves through it. She has trained herself to operate with logic and control, rather than being led by fleeting feelings. The difference between reaction and response, there's a massive difference between reacting and responding. Weak minds react. They let emotions take over and dictate their behavior. They act without thinking. They get triggered easily. They let external circumstances define their internal state. But the woman who spends time alone, she responds, she processes, evaluates, and chooses her course of action deliberately. She is not controlled by temporary emotions because she understands them. If someone insults her, she doesn't break down or lash out. She remains poised because she knows that someone else's words have no power over her. If she faces failure, she doesn't let discouragement consume her. She takes it as data, adjusts, and keeps moving forward. While others drown in their emotions, she remains steady like a rock in the storm. And this is why she wins. How emotional mastery creates strength. The reason why emotional mastery is so powerful is that it creates unshakable strength. A woman who is in control of her emotions cannot be manipulated. She cannot be played. She cannot be played. She cannot be guilt-tripped, provoked, or swayed by empty promises. She has learned to trust herself above all else. When things go wrong, she doesn't crumble. She adapts. When people betray her, she doesn't dwell. She moves forward. When challenges arise, she doesn't panic. She strategizes. This is power. This is what makes her dangerous. Look at the world around you. Most people are reactive. They're addicted to emotional highs and lows. They seek constant reassurance from others. They let external forces dictate their internal world. And because of this, they are weak. But the woman who spends time alone, she is different. She has built herself into a fortress. She's trained her mind to remain calm under pressure. This makes her a lethal force in any situation. The power of emotional independence. Most people depend on others to regulate their emotions. They need constant validation, comfort, or attention to feel okay. They rely on relationships, friendships, or social approval to maintain their self-worth. But the woman who spends time alone, she has detached herself from that dependency. She has learned to be emotionally independent. She doesn't need someone to make her feel whole. She is whole. She doesn't need external reassurance. She knows who she is. And because of this, she can walk away from toxic situations without hesitation. She doesn't stay where she's not valued. She doesn't tolerate disrespect. She doesn't waste energy on meaningless drama. She chooses herself first, always. Why the world fears an emotionally mastered woman, the world doesn't know how to handle a woman who is emotionally independent. Why? Because she cannot be controlled. She doesn't fall for manipulation tactics. She doesn't engage in pointless emotional battles. She doesn't chase, beg, or lower herself for anyone. Men who are insecure fear her because she doesn't need them. Society fears her because she won't conform. People who thrive on drama hate her because she doesn't participate. She is immune to emotional traps, and that makes her a threat to anyone who thrives on power over others. Final words, a woman who has mastered her emotions is the most powerful person in any room. She is untouchable, unshakable, and unstoppable. She's not a puppet of emotions. She's the master of them. And when you master your emotions, you master life itself. Unbreakable confidence, commanding respect. Without seeking it, a woman who spends time alone is a woman who has built unbreakable confidence. And let me tell you something. Confidence is one of the rarest and most dangerous traits a person can have. Why? Because confidence is the foundation of power. It's what separates those who lead from those who follow. It's what turns a whisper into a roar, a presence into a force, and a simple woman into an unstoppable phenomenon. But here's the difference between true confidence and the fake surface level kind that most people chase. Real confidence isn't loud, desperate, or attention seeking. It's not built on validation from others. It's built on self-respect, self-knowledge, and self-trust. And a woman who spends time alone has mastered all three. Confidence that comes from within. Most people mistake arrogance for confidence. They think being the loudest person in the room makes them strong. I think having people constantly praise them gives them worth. They think the number of social media likes or the approval of others defines their value. That's not confidence. That's dependence. True confidence doesn't need validation. It doesn't need external applause. A woman who has spent time alone has stripped herself of the world's expectations and built herself from the ground up. She doesn't need people to tell her she's worthy. She knows she is. She doesn't need a relationship to feel complete. She is complete. She doesn't look to the outside world to give her a sense of importance. She carries her importance within her. This kind of confidence makes her untouchable. It makes her dangerous. Because people can't manipulate someone who doesn't seek approval. They can't control someone who doesn't crave validation. They can't shake someone who stands firm and who stands firm in who she is. The energy that commands a room, you've seen it before. A woman walks into a room, and without saying a word, people notice her. Not because she's trying to be seen, but because she carries herself with an undeniable presence. That's the power of unbreakable confidence. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. She doesn't second guess her worth. She doesn't ask for permission to exist. She owns her space. She moves with certainty. And because of this, people respect her without her having to demand it. Weak minds try to gain respect through force, through shouting, through proving, through trying too hard. But real confidence is silent strength. It's the kind that makes people take notice without knowing why. It's the kind that forces others to level up just to stand beside her. Confidence in action, the woman who walks away a woman with unbreakable confidence knows one thing for sure. She is the prize. And because of this, she does not tolerate anything less than what she deserves. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't chase people. And she sure as hell doesn't settle for mediocrity. If someone disrespects her, she doesn't engage in an emotional battle. She walks away. If an opportunity doesn't align with her goals, she doesn't hesitate to say no. If a relationship isn't serving her, she doesn't stay out of fear of being alone. She chooses herself. And that right there, that's power. Because the world expects women to be agreeable, to be accommodating, to accept less than what they deserve. But a woman who has built her confidence in solitude, she doesn't play by those rules. She creates her own. How to build unbreakable confidence. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And a woman who spends time alone has had the space and discipline to build herself brick by brick. She knows herself. She has spent time in solitude understanding her mind, her values, her strengths, and her weaknesses. She knows exactly who she is and what she stands for. She trusts herself while others hesitate. She makes decisions with certainty because she has learned to trust her own judgment. She respects herself. She sets boundaries, refuses to settle, and only surrounds herself with people and opportunities that align with her worth. She doesn't fear failure. She has faced challenges alone and come out stronger. She understands that failure is part of the journey, not the end of it. She does the work. Confidence isn't built by talking about it. It's built by doing. She invests in herself, hones her skills, and constantly pushes herself to grow. Why the world fears a confident woman? Let's get one thing straight. The world is terrified of a woman who doesn't need approval. Society thrives on women doubting themselves, seeking validation, and playing small. But when a woman breaks free from that, when she walks in her power with zero apologies, she becomes uncontrollable. She won't be manipulated by false promises. She won't lower herself to make others comfortable. She won't tolerate disrespect, mistreatment, or mediocrity. And that kind of woman, that's the kind of woman who rewrites the rules. Final words, a woman with unbreakable confidence is unstoppable. She doesn't wait for the world to recognize her worth. She declares it herself. She doesn't seek approval. She approves of herself. And because of this, she doesn't just exist. She dominates. If you want to be dangerous, if you want to be untouchable, if you want to walk through life with the kind of confidence that turns heads and shakes the ground you walk on, embrace solitude. Spend time with yourself. Learn who you are. Build your mind. Strengthen your spirit. And when you emerge, you won't need to demand respect. You will command it effortlessly. Self-reliance is power, the foundation of an unstoppable woman. A woman who spends time alone is a woman who has built self-reliance, and self-reliance is the ultimate power. It is the trait that separates the weak from the strong, the dependent from the independent, and the followers from the leaders. In a world where most people look outward for answers, for approval, and for support, she has mastered the rare and dangerous skill of looking within. She is not waiting to be rescued. She does not need a savior. She is her own hero. Why most people fear being alone. Most people cannot handle solitude. They distract themselves with endless noise, constant socializing, relationships that drain them, and external validation to avoid facing their own thoughts. The idea of being alone terrifies them because it forces them to confront their weaknesses their insecurities, and their unfulfilled potential. But a woman who embraces solitude, she has conquered that fear. She has sat in silence and confronted the uncomfortable truths about herself. She has learned how to navigate her own mind, control her own emotions, and find strength in her own company. This makes her powerful beyond measure. Because once you realize you don't need anyone to survive, you become unstoppable. Dependence is a weakness she refuses to be weak. Society has conditioned people, especially women, to believe that dependence is normal, even necessary, that they need someone to complete them, that they need permission to be great, that they should always seek approval before taking action. But the woman who spends time alone rejects this idea completely. She knows that the moment you rely on others to define your worth, your strength, or your happiness, you give them power over you. And she refuses to be powerless. She has learned to trust herself, to rely on her own judgment, to solve her own problems. And because of that, she cannot be manipulated, controlled, or shaken by the opinions of others. She moves through life with certainty because she is the one in control. How self-reliance breeds strength and resilience. The greatest strength a person can have is the ability to stand alone. A woman who has built her life in solitude knows that she can handle anything, that she does not panic when faced with challenges. She adapts. She does not collapse when things go wrong. She finds a way through. She does not depend on anyone else to give her direction. She creates her own path. And that's why the world finds her intimidating. Because while others are searching for someone to hold their hand, she's already miles ahead, making moves with precision and strategy. She doesn't need saving. She doesn't need reassurance. She is solid. And that kind of woman, that's the kind of woman who changes the game. The freedom that comes with self-reliance. There's nothing more liberating than knowing you are fully capable of handling life on your own terms. A woman who spends time alone has cultivated the kind of freedom that most will never experience. She is free from expectation. She does not live to please others. She does what is right for her, without guilt, without hesitation. She is free from fear. She has learned to rely on herself, which means she does not fear abandonment, rejection, or failure. She trusts that she can rebuild, restart, and thrive no matter what. She is free from mediocrity because she does not need validation. She does not settle for anything less than what she deserves. She does not tolerate half-hearted relationships, weak friendships, or empty commitments. She knows her worth and she refuses to lower her standards. Why the world fears a self-reliant woman, let's be clear. Society does not want women to be self-reliant. Why? Because a woman who doesn't need approval, doesn't seek permission, and doesn't depend on anyone is impossible to control. She makes decisions for herself. She doesn't comply. She leads. She doesn't ask. She takes. And that scares people. It threatens the system that thrives on making women feel dependent, insecure, and doubtful. But the woman who has spent time alone, she has broken free from that conditioning. She has built herself into a fortress, unshakable, immovable, and dangerously powerful. How to cultivate self-reliance. Self-reliance is not something you are born with. It is something you build. A woman who has spent time alone has intentionally developed this power. If you want to become truly self-reliant, here's what you need to do. Make decisions without seeking approval. Stop waiting for permission. If you want something, go after it. If you believe in something, stand by it. Solve your own problems. Don't run to others every time you face difficulty. Learn to think critically, find solutions, and trust your ability to handle challenges. Detach from external validation, likes, comments, compliments. These things do not define you. Your worth is not measured by outside opinions. Know who you are and stand firm in it. Embrace solitude, spend time with yourself. Learn your strengths, face your weaknesses, and become comfortable in your own company. Take full responsibility for your life. No one is coming to save you. Your success, happiness, and growth are in your hands. Final words, the power of a self-reliant woman. A woman who is self-reliant is a force of nature. She is not swayed by opinions, not weakened by setbacks, and not dependent on anyone for her success. She walks through life with confidence, control, and absolute certainty. She does not wait for opportunities. She creates them. She does not hope for change. She makes it happen. She does not let the world define her. She defines herself. And that is why a woman who spends time alone is the most dangerous kind of woman, because she doesn't just exist, she dominates. This is the message of a woman who stands in her power, unshaken, unstoppable, and truly dangerous in the best way possible. If you embrace solitude, cultivate self-reliance, and master your mind, you don't just navigate life, you command it. Now go out there and own your world.